Assalamu alaikum fam, hope you're doing well. We're continuing our book dive into Hamza Yusuf's commentary on Imam al-Mawlud, Matharat al Qulub. We've been reading this for well over we started this over a year ago. And it's been highly nerdy, and we're in a very thought-provoking section on vanity. As you know, that is a topic I have really started to nerd out upon, especially with modernity upon us, and how many of us women are lost in this affair, mental disease. So this chapter has been very relevant to me. Let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Go ahead and listen to this as you wash dishes, do a jigsaw puzzle, draw, paint, clean your fish tank, feed your chickens, whatever it is you're doing, fam. Alright. A person will always find someone with more talent and more knowledge. Ultimately, above all those who have knowledge is the all-knowing Quran 12:76. God. Moses, may Allah be pleased with him, was once asked if he was the most knowledgeable of people, and he answered yes. Moses, peace be upon him, was then told that there was a man who had knowledge that Moses, may Allah be pleased with him, did not have. This man was Khidr. Okay, and that's spelled Khidr, who was not a prophet, but Moses, may Allah be pleased with him, without a trace of vanity, became his student. The story is told in Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran. The word vanity comes from the Latin word vanus, which means empty. See, I love Latin. It's really a cool language. Really cool. Empty. To be vain is a sort of emptiness, isn't it? Yes, vanus. I agree, because when you get around someone who's deeply vain, don't confuse what I'm saying with someone who cares about their appearance. I'm not saying you can't care about yourself, but there is a level to where it's like, this is all they are. The level of decadence. Okay, think of the Hunger Games. You ever seen that show where the elite are just huge hats, so much makeup, oversized dresses. They are vain and they're pompous, gluttonous. They just have that vanity in them. They're vacuous. They're empty. They have no character. They are just these material decorations. It's really, really interesting. Implying that the source of our vanity is void of substance and will vanish. So freaking true. I swear, man, you gotta get around these people, right? Especially in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Miami, some of these women, they're so vain that that's all there is to their consciousness. And it's worse when they get money on OnlyFans, and then they have no depth to their thought, right? They have only taken pictures of their most intimate parts. They're only valued because of that. Their entire consciousness and validation only comes from that. The artificial beauty they have, that it will fade, it's all they link their consciousness to. It's empty, because it's going to get poured out as soon as time arrives, which arrives in your 30s. It's so interesting, man. When the Roman emperor triumphed in battle, he put on a victory celebration in which the general of the battle paraded through the street. A triumphal parade, yeah. Behind him on his chariot, a slave would hold a victory laurel and whisper in the general's ear, "All is vanity," thus reminding the general of the perils of vanity. It is part of the ancient wisdom to remind the people that all accomplishments people praise and admire will perish until no one remembers them. Good point. Charles Lindbergh, the first pilot to successfully fly across the Atlantic, was celebrated as a great hero for his famous flight. Within 10 years, however, he was vilified as a criminal by the American press, which falsely claimed that he was a Nazi sympathizer. Well, that's the American media. That's the even back here, the American journalists, spinning threads upon threads, calling everyone a Nazi. I swear, everyone is a Nazi to the leftist liberals. You're a Nazi, you're a Nazi. It's like that's the only word they have in their vocabulary. The standard of American journalism is so down the toilet, man. There's very few good journalists left. Ugh. How many times have we seen major cities holding massive celebrations for accomplishments of their sports teams, the huge parades, and the hubris tradition of human glorification? Yeah, the sports parades are quite bizarre. Quite bizarre. But now they're not even celebrations. The Super Bowl just happened. There was mass looting. I mean, now they went from celebrating being loud and drinking beer and being total morons to now looting. It's like, okay, we should just not have these games anymore. Or we need to have massive police out because the people, they're just so low IQ, just so animalistic that they either drink and cause a mess, or they use this opportunity to riot. There's also tons of human trafficking that happens there. It's just a nightmare. A nightmare. So, odd. And, okay, you can get mad at me saying this, but a lot of those games is rigged. Oh, don't get mad at me. But, even during the time of Prohibition, there was, the Jews, and the Italians and the Irish. They bet a lot on the World Series and baseball games and, lose and paying certain boxers to lose a fight. There's a lot of corruption in sports. Not saying every match is, but when people are betting lots of money, and a player knows he's only got so many years before an injury, and he can get a huge sum of money for losing and letting another win, you never know, man. There's a lot of corruption out there. How many of these celebrations end up in riots, vandalism, and even the loss of life? That's funny, I just mentioned that. Yeah, I'm glad I don't live next to a stadium. I remember when I would go visit my dad in Denver, and they were building the new Broncos stadium. I never went, but it just was like, how much tax money is spent on, preserving those roads, and who's paying for this to be built? And yeah, it can create jobs and stuff like that, but it's just like, why? You're inviting certain types of trouble. And in Philadelphia, the Eagles fans, some of them can get really violent. Oakland Raiders fans as well. I mean, people will literally hurt each other over a sports team. It's really strange. What about the urban social morass that exists before, during, and after the celebrations? To celebrate in this way is vintage vanity. Vintage vanity. I like that. There is foolishness in being vain about what one has accomplished. I can agree with that. During these lockdowns, I have really come to the realization of that. Given its ephemeral nature, yeah. That's why, we honor students can compete with each other, but at the end of the day, we're nothing. There will always be someone else who does better and more, and will be remembered. And each new semester, new students arrive, and you're forgotten. I remember in high school, I went to find my uncle's trophy. He was in the basketball team, and they have a display case where they remember all the teams that won. And I remember seeing him in the basketball lineup, and I was like, that's my uncle. And that was pretty interesting. Not many schools have that, where you can see the past things. And some, they put a banner up of all the players' names. But then again, they just become the schools that don't have that, and you're on their team, you're gone. You don't exist. No one will remember that, except for you in your head and the few who were there in that moment of time. Celebrate and have fun with your companions, but don't let it be your end-all be-all. They say that a lot of NFL players have a hard time letting go and moving on from their NFL career because they're still living off the glory days, wearing their ring, their Super Bowl ring or whatever, and that they're stuck in that time period. They can't move on to it. Now they've gained weight, they're no longer in shape, maybe they had a divorce, maybe they lost and spent all that money, so they're stuck in the memory of that vainglorious past. And it really has encompassed them in so many ways that they almost can't break free from that vain chain that has encircled them. It's really interesting. Great section. But when one is thankful to God and acknowledges and praises Him as the source of this goodness, then the accomplishment outlasts our earthly lives and memories of people, for God preserves it. That's an awesome thing to think about. Being thankful to Allah and knowing that He allowed this opportunity to happen, it's in the record, and it's preserved in our list of deeds, right? And to not despair if another younger, brighter champion takes your spot. Vanity originates from one's ignorance of two matters. God alone is the fashioner and the giver of blessings, and we human beings are incapable of accomplishing anything without God's will and blessings. Now, isn't that nice? Very different from the atheistic approach, right? Where it's all just you or whomever paid to get you that way, right? Like you're an actor, some people just sleep with someone to get that position. There's a lot of that. Oh, if you let so-and-so in your movie, we'll help you get this record deal for your family member. A lot of nepotism, a lot of like elite shuffling of money and support, right? That's not a merit-based system, okay? Here, though, we see that everything originates from Allah, who is the one who is full of bounty. He's our protector, our guardian, our sustainer. All of us believers must put our hope and trust in Allah alone, and that He sees what's behind us and what's in front of us, and everything is going to be part of our destiny and decree, and we must always try to do our best. Whether we're poor, we suffer like Job, or we're put into a different position that requires something else in terms of resisting corruption and so on and so forth. But we must make sure that our hearts don't get tempted by vanity, right? So we have to really purify what we see. It's another reason why I have YouTube Premium, is because I don't see commercials. And I don't really watch TV, but I do have a TV provider, right? But I mute the TV if there's a commercial, or I change the channel. If I'm using my phone, I turn the volume down if there's some commercial on anything, right? Even ads that are put into the videos, like even if you have YouTube Premium, there might be a sponsor of that person that they read the ad themselves. I'll skip ahead, I'll put it on mute. You know, I try not to let vain commercials get to me and program me into being uber materialistic in this empirical realm. We have to do that often. Not saying you can't admire nice things, but you have to really make sure that you're not allowing this system that exists to program you into being a vapid and vain, materialistic, wretched creature, right? Always coveting, always finger rubbing, always looking for the next thing, like a rat for its bread, It's really quite interesting. So he's contending that we need to make sure we're not ignorant that God alone is the sustainer and the fashioner and the giver of all bounty, that we also must acknowledge our blessings. If one accomplishes something, one should remember God and be grateful, and not swagger with haughtiness. For if we do not humble ourselves, God will humble us. Now this is very important, because the swagging and the haughtiness is something I noticed a lot in Conor McGregor and with Floyd Mayweather. Now with Conor, it's interesting, he was so swaggery, promoting his whiskey and using lots of cocaine and openly, cheating on his wife for the world to see, right? And his ankle snapped when he went to fight Dustin Poirier, and he was defeated by Khabib. So he still hasn't changed that aspect, yet Dana White still markets that personality in the sort of WWE fashion to sell tickets. And the FC, unfortunately, has created copycat people who seek to mimic the Conner attitude to get fame, instead of the stoic, focused, religious aims of Khabib. And people have actually mocked Khabib for being so well put together and said that Connor's way is better because it gets more attention. So the attention economy breeds into vanity, and people maximize profit off of vanity. So we ourselves have to keep our iman strong in order to preserve our dignity, integrity, and our strength against the horrific levels of foolish vanity. Yeah, we have to constantly keep ourselves humble. It's easier said than done, but inshallah we can keep going. When men and women are blessed with exceptional outward beauty, they introduce ugliness when they have vanity for it. Yes. Yeah. You know? Yeah, I totally agree. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, saw a reflection of himself, and he was a beautiful man, he would make the following supplication. O God, as you have made my countenance most excellent, make my character most excellent. Imam Maulud says that to rid oneself of vanity, or to prevent it from entering one's heart, one should reflect long and hard on the fact that all blessings are entirely from God, and that one cannot produce any benefit or harm without his permission. So again, we have that awesome dua where the Prophet, peace be upon him, focused on his character being excellent and not just his flesh. This is important for us because women are horrifically brutal to each other concerning looks. It's hard because we measure each other through that, right? And women will almost measure up a value statement upon you based upon the brands you wear, how much plastic surgery you've had, and how you look. It's really interesting. Really interesting. Vanity is a currency, and vanity makes profit for many industries. And when a woman isn't vain, she's almost hated for it. She's mocked for it. She's seen as a plain Jane, they call them. Rather, we should be content with what Allah has given us and be thankful that we are not born heavily disfigured, but we must have mercy upon those who are. You can't judge a book by its cover. Some people look like a villain and they are, but others have a perfect smile, are completely psychotic. So beauty is a tricky, tricky beast. A beautiful woman can be a total psychotic danger that can destroy a man's psychology and rob his bank account, and an ugly fat woman could do just the same, right? So beauty is just a trial in every shape, and beautiful women can be harassed. They could be totally modest and shy, but they could be pursued by ugly women who will make up rumors about her to destroy her. Women do that a lot. If another girl is more beautiful than them, they'll gossip, they'll lie, they'll spread rumors because they're jealous that the men are seeking her and not them. When they could go on a diet, they could just be content with the husband they have. But women, indeed, they love to hurt one another at the same time complaining about men when we need to fix our own affairs. But man, his whole section on vanity, man, really just gets my brain going. Because I had a cousin, man, who was, may Allah guide her to Islam. Haven't spoken to her in years, but extremely vain, and other members in my family who extremely vain. I'm talking like, I don't know how many selfies they produce a month. It's just like over and over and over. We're having a very strange time period in humanity, The less you look in the mirror, the happier you become. Take care of yourself, honor yourself, but don't be consumed by the passing of time. Because time is the great equalizer. Gravity and time Allah has put for us where the internal clock is ticking, tick, 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 tick. So even the most attractive girl who she bloomed before all the other girls and she's mean and she's getting all the attention, well, 30 years old, starts turning. And the worst part, though, is when women tried to, chase vanity by taking all these, anti-wrinkle creams. They do all these procedures. They lie about their age. And then women are looking at photoshopped images of heavily makeup, heavily contorted women, thinking that is actually attainable and maintainable, right? It's just the level of illusionary forces now is just mind-boggling. And then when you see people who really alter themselves, where they tattoo their eyeballs black, they get surgeries like to make their ears pointy like an elf, and they get tattoos all over their face, and their hair is pink, and they got, nose piercing here, eyebrow piercing here. They've totally contorted themselves in this sort of opposite type of vanity, to where it's now grotesque and contrarian to the standards of beauty that of many different cultures. It's really quite fascinating, this whole topic. What is beauty? What is vanity? Right? This is a topic that has been discussed by theologians and philosophers, intellectuals throughout, hundreds of years. And we may never have the real answer, because as the saying goes, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But vanity is also in that person and in the viewer, as he mentioned. Very great section. I hope you enjoy it.